The terrifying reign of flesh-hungry zombies. In the quiet town of Ravenswood, darkness descended as night fell. The moon cast an eerie glow upon the deserted streets, where the remnants of a once thriving community now lay abandoned. It was said that the town held a deep secret, a secret that had awakened the dead. Amidst the decaying houses and overgrown yards, a group of survivors huddled together in an old, dilapidated bookstore. The air was thick with fear and tension as they barricaded the entrance, their eyes darting around, anticipating the horror that lurked outside. "Is anyone out there?" whispered Sarah, her voice quivering with fear. Silence was her only response, until a low growl emanated from beyond the barricades. The survivors held their breath, listening intently as the growls grew louder, punctuated by the shuffling of heavy footsteps. "It's them," whispered Jack, his voice barely audible. "They're here." The survivors huddled closer together, clutching their makeshift weapons tightly. The bookstore's old wooden floors creaked as the undead approached, their lifeless eyes glinting with hunger. Suddenly, a hideous figure emerged from the shadows. It was a zombie, its flesh rotting and decomposed, revealing gnarled bones beneath. Its sunken eyes locked onto the survivors, its gaping maw releasing an agonizing moan. "You cannot hide from us," the zombie hissed, its voice a disturbing blend of decay and malice. "We hunger for your flesh." The survivors exchanged terrified glances, their hearts pounding in their chests. Fear consumed their thoughts, but a sliver of determination shone in their eyes. "We won't be your feast," cried Alex, raising a baseball bat above his head. The battle began, a clash of desperation against the relentless undead. The survivors swung their weapons with all their might, their blows landing on decaying flesh and brittle bones. The stench of decay permeated the air as they fought for their lives. Amidst the chaos, Sarah stumbled upon a forgotten diary on a dusty shelf. The pages revealed the dark secret of Ravenswood, an experiment gone wrong, turning its inhabitants into mindless zombies. The survivors realized that they were not alone in their fight but rather pawns in a sinister game of life and death. As the battle raged on, the survivors struggled to maintain their ground. Each swing of their weapons was met with relentless attacks from the zombies, their numbers seemingly infinite. "We can't hold them off much longer," shouted Jack, his voice filled with desperation. But just as hope began to fade, a distant siren pierced through the night. The survivors glanced at each other in confusion until a voice crackled over a loudspeaker. "Evacuation team is here. Head to the north entrance." Relief washed over them as they realized their salvation had arrived. With renewed determination, the survivors fought their way through the horde, carving a path toward the safety of the evacuation point. Finally, as the first rays of dawn began to break, the survivors stumbled out of the bookstore, their bodies battered and weary. They stepped into the waiting arms of the rescue team, leaving behind the horrors of Ravenswood. But their relief was short-lived. As they glanced back at the town they had once called home, they saw that the zombies had overrun the evacuation point. The rescue team, too slow to react, became victims themselves, torn apart by the ravenous undead. Shock and despair filled the survivors' hearts as they realized there was no escape. They were trapped, surrounded by the very creatures they had fought so hard to survive against. The once defiant group was reduced to trembling, cornered prey. In their final moments, they clung to each other, tears mingling with blood and sweat. They whispered words of love and regret, their voices choked with despair. The zombies closed in, their grotesque forms looming closer and closer. And then, silence. Ravenswood became a graveyard, the only sounds echoing through the empty streets were the chilling moans of the undead. The survivors, once filled with hope and determination, now became victims of the very horror they sought to conquer. Their story, like so many others, became a tragic testament to the unstoppable tide of darkness that engulfed the world. The town of Ravenswood, once filled with life, now stood as a haunting reminder of the relentless march of the undead.